Alrighty, guys. I apologize that that took so long there. I had some callers on hold, and I wanted to make sure they took the time to call into the show, and they sat on hold for the majority of the program, and I wasn't able to get to their calls on the air. So I wanted to make sure I answered their questions at least off the air. So that took a little bit longer than normal. So apologize for the delay, but here we are with the After Schrock. I'm going to get my screen open so that I can see your questions. That's always helpful when I can actually see what you guys are asking me. So thank you all for your patience. Appreciate you. Good morning, Steve. Steve, first person here. He beat me even. So anyway, appreciate your patience with me here on this one. All right, so I guess for the After Schrock today, we've got a presidential debate coming up on Thursday, coming up in less than a week. We've got, I have a question for you guys on some software that we're developing and pricing for that software. I know what we're going to need to charge to make a break point on it. I just don't know if that price is a price that consumers are going to be willing to pay. So I wanted to ask, would you pay that price? So, and maybe we can do less and charge a lower price. But for what we want to do, for the kind of product we want to deliver, this is what the price would be. And so I need to find out if this is even, in the marketplace before we go through development. Are we going to be able to, if we can deliver this product to consumers as well as Schrock business clients, it will be the rate of return will be much greater. And when it comes down to it with backup software, consumers want backups too. In fact, most people don't back up enough. So anyway, so we've got that as a concern. We went to Tennessee for a family vacation. We took the whole crew, we took 9 people, caravan, 2 vehicles, all the way to Tennessee. And we did the Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg tourist trap thing. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And we went to very many of the same places that we went last time when we went last year to Tennessee. And things were different this time. And so I wanted to share some of that with you. And maybe that's where I'll kick it off this morning. But first, before I get into that, let's make sure we greet everybody that's coming. Aaron's here. Welcome back. Roger's here. James, good to see you, buddy. Mitch. Carolyn's back. Finally found you. Carolyn, it was me. I was late. I was 17. It was 17 after the hour before I popped on finally. So thank you for your patience. Elizabeth is here. Happy Sunday morning, Bob. Happy Sunday morning back at you. Cheryl and Rich from Council Bluffs are here as well. So yeah, the gang is filing in, filtering in the door. So why Tennessee? We did the Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg thing. Somebody said, why don't you just go to Branson? I mean, it's kind of the same thing, right? The Titanic Museum in Branson's actually better. Well, I guess maybe it's not better anymore. It's been 20 years since I've been there, or 10 years, 12 years since I've been to the Titanic Museum in Branson. But they have a Titanic Museum in Pigeon Forge also, and we went there. Or was it Gatlinburg? I forget. Anyway, one of the things that really kind of hit me, this is a tourist trap, guys. This is where people go for vacations, and they're going to spend money. They're going to relax. They're going there because it is a tourist trap, right? We're in June. It's not like when Kim and I went down to Florida in the off season, and we're shocked to find many of the smaller shops closed because it was the off season. This is the season. This is when people are vacationing. I saw maybe 10% vacancy rates in the strip malls. They're on the, like they have the theaters, like where, it's like the Hatfield and McCoy show, and, the Lumberjack show at Paula Dean's place over here, I saw one entire theater that was completely shuttered. Like it was shut down, the sign was blanked. And that's a massive building. So it wasn't just small businesses, but it was larger businesses also. We went to Seaverville, where they have the world's largest knife store. And we were building this up so big for everybody who was coming with us for the first time to Tennessee, because we went there last year and it was absolutely amazing. Think of it, it's like a Walmart, and the first floor is all knives. And like the counters, that you go to the Buck counter, and it's manned by a representative from Buck, who knows all about the knives, all about the mechanisms, all about the metals. It's telling you how, the best ones, the sharpest ones, the ones that stay sharp, the ones you need to sharpen more often, how you should sharpen. I mean, then you go to the SOG counter and there's all the, you can go over here to the Gerber counter and there's stuff there. And all these company reps are there, and it was like being at a trade show or a convention, but for knives. And then if you got tired of knives, you can go to the second story. The second floor was all guns. Yeah, and so they had representatives there and guns in the cabinets and walls of shotguns and AR-15s, just like cool stuff to look at. And maybe you were done with the guns. Then you can go to the third floor. The third floor is all tactical gear and clothing options. So then, yeah, you get your holster, you get your shirt to go under your vest. I mean, you can all kinds of cool things that you could get there. So we were very excited to go back to the world's largest knife store in Cedarville. And we get there, we pull up, we go in there, and you're immediately overwhelmed by the amount of, like, it was fun to look at the new people who were there with us because it was like glass eyes, like, what are we doing? What is this? So, okay, everybody kind of went their own way to go look at their own thing, and I went my way. Last year when I was there, I bought a switchblade. Why does Thor need a switchblade? Thor didn't need a switchblade. But I'm terrible about buying things on vacation. Like, I don't buy souvenirs, right? I don't buy trinkets. I don't even usually buy a t-shirt because I'm like, why would I want to wear a t-shirt that's like world's largest knife store? That's stupid. Why would I wear that? That's why I don't understand. You guys are like, I want a Schrock shirt. And I'm like, why? I have to wear it. Why do you want to wear it? Why? I don't get it. But I'm really bad at buying souvenirs on vacations. I just don't do it. I didn't buy a single souvenir this entire vacation I was on. My wife bought me one, and I'll tell you about it in a second. And it's a good one too. She's good at the souvenir hunt. But I go to the counter. I'm like, I'm going to replace my SOG switchblade. Now, I didn't buy like a $1,200 switchblade because I might use it to open a box from Amazon from time to time, or maybe a letter. I'm not taking it to war or anything, or hiding it in my boot or anything crazy like that. So I go to to go to the SOG counter to get my $350 switchblade, which is still an expensive knife for me. Like, I'm used to going to Shields. If I spend $100 on a knife, my little pocket knife I carry around is a $150 knife, $125. That's an expensive knife. $350 is like bougie. All right. So I go to the counter and I'm looking, and what I see, when you see things as a consumer, they are different than the way a business owner will see things. So when I went into the world's largest knife store, the first thing that struck me was it was dirty. There was a smell about it. Not terrible bad, kind of like somebody's garage would smell if it had oil rags in it, which I guess makes sense. A lot of oil and knives and guns and stuff like that. So okay. Lots of bargain bins to sort through, and that wasn't new. That was there last time. And the bargain bins have all the boxed cardboard, like $30 knives from China. Stuff that's not going to hold up. That looks really cool though, but it's not going to hold up to daily use or anything. Then you go to the counter. So I go to the SOG counter and I'm looking, and it's the same knife, but there's like 20 boxes of them, and they're not stacked 2 or 3 deep. They're spread out across the bottom of the cabinet, the glass cabinet, all one knife deep. And there's maybe like 7 or 10 different knives to choose from. None of them are switchblades. They have no switchblades at all. And I was like, wow. So as a consumer, you're going to say, that's a lot of knives, right? As a business owner, I'm saying, this is 50% the number of knives that was here last year. In fact, the entire SOG counter, half of it was SOG knives, and the other half was some weird Chinese knives I'd never seen before. Probably something that would just throw in the bargain bin on the other side of the building, but they just needed something to put in the case. And the representative behind the counter was not a SOG representative anymore. It was just a Knife World hourly employee back there who knew a lot, who could tell you a lot about different blades and things and mechanisms, and had some training, but it wasn't the same as having somebody who was an absolute knowledge expert in the product standing there to talk to. I didn't feel the desire to speak to any of the Knife World employees about the knives in the cabinet. And they apparently did not feel the desire to speak with me either, because not a single one, well, when there was the SOG representatives, how's it going, sir? Can I help you find anything specific today? Or are you just browsing around? Tell you what, let me show you something really cool. We just got this in. Nothing like that happened. The SOG guy was selling his stuff, was selling his wares. The Knife World guys are just hourly employees. They don't care. If you ask for help, they're more than pleasant and they'll help you. But it's just missing something that was there a year ago. And of course, I couldn't get a switchblade. I thought, well, maybe they stopped selling switchblades. Maybe SOG stopped. I didn't see any. I mean, I saw some switchblades. There were some weird ones, like multicolored rainbow switchblades. I'm like, I don't need to have the Pride switchblade. Maybe it's out for Pride Month. I don't know, but I don't need the Pride switchblade. I just wanted gunmetal gray or black. Boring man colors that I push a button and a blade comes out. That's all I wanted to have. Not hard. They didn't have it. I went online and looked, and sure enough, all the online knife stores, I can buy that SOG knife for $350, which is saying something, because if it was $350 a year ago, and it's still $350 now, that guy selling the knife is making less money than he was before, or he's selling old inventory, one or the other. But it was like that across the entire store, in everything. The bargain bins even had the same junk. So they'd have a set of bargain bins on one side of the building, a set of bargain bins on the other side of the building, and people are sorting through them and looking at stuff, and it was the same junk in all the bins. And then walking through the store, you would recognize something that was in a bargain bin, but it was pegged as inventory on the shelf over here. So here it justifies a place of prominence on display in the inventory of the store, whereas over there, it's junk you throw in a bin and let people paw through. What that tells me as a business owner is that they have sold through their inventory, and the money they earned selling their inventory was not sufficient to replace the inventory. So rather than replacing the more expensive blades, they bought cheaper blades and spread them out further in the cases so they would look more full and look like they have a wide selection of knives, when in actuality, most of their quality knives were gone. The one thing that I went into that store seeking to buy, aside from a replacement for my switchblade, a very practical thing. Every night, I try to eat an apple before I go to bed. It's amazing. Fiber fills you up, right? So get a little protein and an apple, and boy, you don't feel like eating potato chips. I'll eat an apple in front of the TV rather than potato chips. It's just a stupid thing, right? Maybe it's not for you, but every night I go to cut my apple. We have 3 paring knives in the drawer. We have one that's like a 4-inch paring knife, which is perfect for apples, because the 3.5-inch isn't quite long enough to get all the way through these big cosmic crisp apples I'm cutting. So the 4-inch knife is perfect though, and it's wicked sharp. It is stupid sharp, and it's nothing special. It's like a $10 paring knife from Target. It's not special. The other 2 are like $10, $20 paring knives from Walmart or something. I don't know. They're just junk knives, right? I have some Cutco cutlery that we got for our wedding 20 years ago, and it's still holding up. That tells you something about the Cutco gear, but it's also extremely expensive. And so it's like, well, would you rather buy a knife one time, or would you rather buy it 3 or 4 times throughout your life? Well, for what you're charging today, I'll probably just buy it 3 or 4 times. And that was the experience I had at the knife store. I went and looked at the paring knives, and they were like high-end Japanese paring knives. I'm like, I'm not ginsuing car bolts in half or anything. I'm cutting an apple. And it's like the cheapest paring knife I could find at the knife store was $150. And I'm sorry. I'm sure it was a beautiful knife. I'm sure I could have thrown my apple up in the air and held the blade out and just let it slice the apple right in half on my blade. I bet it would have worked. But for $150, I can buy like 10, maybe 15 paring knives that are crap, that will cut my apple just fine for a while. Then I'll sharpen them, and they'll cut my apple again. I'll sharpen them a 3rd time, and the blade will disintegrate. But I can do that 15 times. Do you know how many apples you can cut? I was like, I just can't do it. I can't spend $150 on a friggin' paring knife. So I left the world's largest knife store with nothing. So then I said, well, let's go look at the gun section. I need another gun like I need a hole in my head. I've got more guns than I can use right now. It's the point now when I want a new gun, I can trade in 2 old guns and get a discount on the new gun. Because I haven't shot that in 4 years. It's time to trade that in. So we go into the gun section, and it's the same thing. So you have the case, right? But it seemed like the case was shorter. And maybe I got bigger. I don't know. The case is smaller than it was. There's a couple of sections missing. And then on the wall where they have all the long guns, you could see like there was rails in the wall where they mount the hooks that hold the guns up, and the rails continued on for another 20 feet, but they had put like displays of safes and things in front of those rails. And if you in your mind, if you imagine if there were two more sections of counter here, those rails would have been behind the counter. So when they got rid of two cabinets for handguns, they got rid of 20 feet of double stacked long guns on the wall. And they just threw some safes there to take up the space instead. So same thing with the guns. Funny thing was they had some used weapons there. And I always like to look at the used weapons because it's like somebody thought something was cool enough to buy. Sometimes you can find a pretty decent deal in the used weapons. So I went to look at the used weapons, and literally every single used weapon in the case, it was like used, and it was a good price, and then it said underneath it, never fired. And I'm thinking, who in the heck buys a brand new gun and never fires it and then sells it? As I have my P226 at home that I've never fired, that I've had for like 2 months now. But I'm not selling it. I'm not selling it. I still want to shoot it. I just haven't found time to get to 88 Tactical recently. They're so busy over there now. It's like getting an appointment's impossible. So the thing, in summary, that I saw in Tennessee was during the radio show, I talked about how everybody's cool with 2% inflation. And if you actually do the math on what 2% inflation does to your earnings over a 10-year period of time, you would be very not cool with it. Like, very not cool. It is systematized theft of your life, of your time, of the time that you're trading. You trade a piece of your life to an employer to receive compensation so you can buy the things that you want, or maybe save a little of that money. So when you save the money you earn, you are literally banking the time from your life that God gave you to be on this earth in the form of money in a bank account. And the federal government has a goal. They want to achieve this goal of just taking 2% of your purchasing power every year, compounding annually, forever. Now, sometimes we screw up, like right now we say it's in like the 3s. If you go look at shadow stats, it's in the 8s. If you look back since Biden took office, if you just look at prices, things are up 20, 30%. So yesterday, for example, my wife and I went to the grocery store together because when you're a married couple and you want to get away from the kids for a little while, what do? You go to the grocery store. So we go to the grocery store. We're walking through the meat section. We were getting some meat for the week. We try to cook at home as much as we can. The food is better. Honestly, it's more healthy for you than eating out, especially processed food. But realistically, my wife is just a freaking amazing cook. I love to eat at home because she makes damn good food, right? So anyway, we go through this whole thing, and we're going past the chicken section, and my wife notices we needed some chicken breasts because we're going to make some pre-made chicken meals that I can like heat up in the afternoon, stuff like that, so I don't go eat some junk somewhere. I can go grab a pre-made meal of delicious apple chicken and eat my delicious apple chicken pasta. And it's all macro balanced, it's all good for my body and all that stuff, whatever. So we go to get the chicken breasts, and my wife notices they have a manager special sticker on the chicken breasts. And we look down, and it's because they expire today. Today is the last day. And the manager special is 99 cents a pound. $1 a pound. Now, normally chicken's like $4 a pound. $3.50 if you go get a good deal at Sam's Club or Costco. But $4 a pound at Hy-Vee. So this is literally 75% off chicken. This is like pre-pandemic chicken prices, where you could go buy 4 breasts of chicken for like $3 and eat a meal, So there was like 12 of these packs in the cooler. So my wife, she gets 8 of them, right? And she puts the 8 in the cart, or 9, puts them in the cart. And I'm looking at the other 3 that are left in the case, and I'm like, why are we not buying those? Because we can take it home, we can wash it, we can pack it in freezer bags, and we can put it in the freezer. It'll be fine. So what, it expires today. It'll be fine in the freezer. We'll eat through that in a month, 2 months, tops. Why we eat chicken 3 times a week? Why are we not doing this? And so she's like, so then we made the rationalization. Maybe Nana would need some chicken. So it's not that we're being greedy and buying all the $1 a pound chicken that Hy-Vee has. We're just going to hold on to some of it in case Nana needs some too. Maybe she wants some chicken breasts. We know that Nana eats dark meat, but that's beside the point. Chicken breasts are white meat. So, okay, so I grab the other three or four of them, put them in the cart, right? And we go to the checkout, and these kids in the checkout are looking at us like we're the crazy chicken people. Like, what the? We're making jokes like, is this bird flu chicken? Like, is that why it's on sale? Like, were these the chickens that were culled in Iowa recently? And these kids are like, what? I don't understand what that means. But anyway, but yeah, they just got tired of ringing up our chicken. He's like, are all these the same? And I'm like, chicken is sold by the pound. And I know this because I screwed this up at Sam's Club. I think I told that story. So yes, they're all the same in that they are all chicken and they are all in a little yellow thing wrapped in plastic, but they're all different weights, you see. So you got to scan each one because they're $1 a pound. Oh, that makes sense. Boop, boop, boop. Scanning all the meat. We get home and we have an assembly line in the kitchen where I got paper towels and Kim's washing the chicken and putting it on the paper towel and I'm blotting the chicken dry and then putting a pound and a half in a bag. Zip, there's one meal, put it on the counter. Then we run them down to the freezer. But that's the thing, guys. When inflation takes 2% of your income compounding annually, and then you have an opportunity to buy something like $1 a pound chicken, and you know it's going to be expired tomorrow, but I'm sure it's fine. You know, pre-pandemic, you probably would have just taken the chicken that wasn't going to expire tomorrow, and you probably would have only bought what you needed to make the meal you were going to make that day. But post-pandemic world, when you see a deal like that, you buy all the chicken. We literally had a quarter of a shopping cart full of chicken breasts. We bought all the chicken that they had because it was such a saving, such a value. So this idea of like 2% inflation, we're supposed to be okay with that. It's squeezing everything and everybody. Everything is costing more, and you guys know that. I don't have to tell you that. So when you go someplace like Seaverville or Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, and you know your lumberjack meal costs $4 more than it did before, and Waffle House is charging $6 for a waffle all of a sudden. I don't know if that's really what it cost, but you know the prices are up, right? And then you see businesses struggling to make it. You know, small businesses that are the backbone that employ more people in this country than anyone. And you stop and you shake your head because you're like, why in the world does our government want to make it harder to do this? To do anything? Why do they want to make it harder to build a quality PC by outlawing the parts that we buy? Why are they taking away your security software options because it's a Russian company? Why do we need 2% inflation? You know, just the other day, Nana is not a stupid person. Nana was the whole COVID vaccine thing. She was the one who was getting shunned in public because she wouldn't back down. And it's because of that woman that I never took that shot. And I am thankful to this day for her. Among other reasons, but for that reason in particular. And even Nana was sitting at the dinner table yesterday. Well, we had steak. We didn't have chicken. But because we've been eating out for like a week in Gatlinburg and eating Waffle House, we're like, we need some real food, please. So Nana came over for dinner, and she's like, well, now that inflation's come down a little bit, hopefully things will get a little easier. That's the thing, guys. Inflation isn't coming down. It might be going up more slowly than it was before when you noticed it because it was 9% annualized, according to government numbers, more like 20% in real life. You're not noticing it as much because it's only 2%. But it's the prices are never going to come down again. It's not like the price of chicken is going to go down to $1 a pound again on the regular. Ever. It's not going to happen. We would have to have deflation for that to happen. The government does not want deflation. Why? Because deflation lowers your GDP. When your GDP goes down, your debt to GDP ratio goes up. In other words, you can't keep spending money like a drunken sailor when your GDP is shrinking. The only reason our GDP has gone up, honestly, is because of government spending. And then we find out ridiculous things last week, like $700 million for charging stations, or $1.7 billion, or some crazy number to build charging stations, and the Department of Transportation has built 7 in a year. 7. That's it. Then we find out that all this money for rural broadband and everything else, well, if you wanted to get the money or the grants to expand broadband access to rural communities, a noble, laudable cause. Not sure the government needs to be the one doing it, but okay. If you were going to do that, they stacked so many DEI regulations into the grants that if you didn't have a certain ratio of certain races of people and certain genders and certain policies, that you couldn't get the grant. Therefore, nobody got the grant. Therefore, no internet was built or put out anywhere in the American rural areas. And the money's just sitting there. It's been appropriated, it's been printed, it's been financed, we're paying interest on it, and it's just sitting there. So you can make the argument by just sitting there, it's not out circulating, so maybe that's helping inflation. But we're paying interest on this debt, and this interest is going to become insurmountable. And so, I don't know. I mean, I do know. I know what needs to happen. And I've said this before. It's like there are two ways to fix this problem. There are only two ways. Number one, you reduce government spending, get government out of the way, get government uninvolved in people's lives, allow entrepreneurs to do things and build rural broadband and build crypto innovations and do these things. Some of them will sink, some of them will swim, some of them will be great, some of them will fail miserably. That's the engine of progress, right? That's the creative destruction we need to see in America to keep us on the cutting edge, to keep us ahead. So the government can stop spending money and get out of the way. We're talking about like closing the EPA, closing the Department of Education, shuttering the FBI, maybe reforming it in some other way, but we really need 17 different intelligence agencies. All these things, like literally like an Argentina style where they had, they cut the number of government agencies from like 16 to 8, something like that. He cut the government in half with the stroke of a pen. Well, then we would reduce our spending, wouldn't we? And then all of a sudden, the tax revenues coming in would allow us to start reducing our debt rather than borrowing and spending and everything else. The value of our bonds would go up. The interest yields on them would go up because there aren't as many of them flying around. We don't need to issue them as often. So yeah, this would be a really good thing. But it would reduce the amount of power in Washington, D.C. Therefore, the likely scenario, the most likely outcome, is that the government will continue to, they might pare it back a little bit, but the government will continue to spend the way they want to spend, and they will count on inflation basically devaluing the dollars that they spent yesterday to make them easier to repay tomorrow, which is why I was in no hurry to pay off my student loans. I took out $55,000 in student loans to go to college for 7 years in the 90s and early 2000s. Why on earth would I be rushing to pay that off when my interest rate was like 1 point something percent and the government is inflating at their goal of 2%? So literally every single year, my debt gets 1% easier to pay off. By the time I'm 70, it'll be just like a Social Security check I'll have to sign over and be like, oh, there's my student loan paid off. But yet Joe Biden forgave all my student loan debt, so I don't have to pay it off at all now. Huh. Okay. Thanks, I guess. But is that not inflationary? Like, now the money that I would have spent even making the minimum payments on my student loan debt can be redirected toward consumption or toward savings or toward something else. So anyway, what I saw when I went to Tennessee was I saw decline. It wasn't bad. The place was still clean. There weren't homeless encampments of people begging on the street corners and stuff. But the business environment had definitely taken a hit. It wasn't the same vibrant environment that was there a year ago. And if it can move that much in 1 year, imagine how much it could move in the next 4 years. Pretty crazy stuff. All right, let me jump into comments here real fast. Make sure I'm not leaving you guys in the dust. Aaron says, I think Biden's going to spectacularly melt down during the debate in such a way that it's going to be glaringly obvious to everyone, including his handlers. They can no longer deny the problem. But then Trump is going to be wrongfully blamed for Biden's brain melting down. Trump did this to him. He's so mean. He made Joe Biden nervous. Hey, Eileen, glad you're back on. Thor was worried that you wouldn't be back today for some reason. Oh, no. I'm like a bad fungus. I always come back. I'm always around. All right. Good to have you back. Mom says hi. Hi, Mom. All right. Good morning, Gene. Mark is here. Brian, greetings. Z-Dog, morning from the 7th tee box. Wow, you're making good progress there, buddy. Thor, what club do you recommend for 152.5 yards from the center of the green? Oh, yeah, I worked last night. I'll sleep well later. You know, the extent of my golf knowledge ends around golden tee. So I'm thinking like a 3-iron or a 5-iron, maybe? Maybe? I don't know. You can tell me if I'm even close, because I have no clue what I'm even talking about. Like iron my clothes iron? Why does the USA select specific things from Russia to ban? Why would we allow anything from Russia using government logic? That's the thing. So Kaspersky had taken steps. They had centralized some of their data storage in America. They said basically, even if the Russian government comes in, we couldn't hand over this data. Obviously, that's a line of horse crap. If the Russian government came in and held a gun to their head, they'd find a way to get the data. If they had to put someone on a plane to fly over to the data center that they control in America to get a portable hard drive and download the data, they would get the data. So I think the big concern here with Kaspersky, number one, is they're trying to increase pressure on Russia to reach some kind of settlement agreement with Ukraine. Number two, there is the possibility, especially due to Kaspersky's white box program, that some companies, possibly even government contractors, are running Kaspersky software even if they don't know they're running it. And that's a security problem. Number three, why do they ban certain things and not other things? Well, because the things the government needs, like uranium, we'll buy that from Russia all day long. But we won't allow you to buy antivirus. You won't allow me to buy deep cool parts. I think we have reached the logical extreme of what we can do by weaponizing economies, or as Hillary Clinton would call it, soft power. Because we weaponized the dollar and we took all of the treasuries that Russia held in the United States and confiscated them essentially. And now we're taking the interest that they're earning on their own money and giving that to Ukraine. So we're not giving them the assets, you see. So this is like, it's not really theft because we're not giving them the asset itself. We're just inflating the hell out of our economies while we take their interest that would normally offset some of that inflation and we're sending that to Ukraine. So we're just cutting the value of their investments. Why would anybody who could possibly see themselves in the future being adversarial in some way with the United States, why would they want to hold our debt anymore? Saudi Arabia literally ended the dollar peg last month for oil. They'll sell oil in any currency now. Used to be it had to be sold in dollars. So if you had rupees and you wanted to come in and buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you had to change your rupees in for dollars and then use those dollars to buy oil. And what it did is it created an overseas artificial demand for dollars. Now, is this the end of the world right now? No, because a lot of oil is still going to be sold in dollars. But it's going to reduce the demand for the US dollar ever so slightly. After we reduced it ever so slightly by cutting Russia off, after we reduced it ever so slightly by tariffing China so much. I mean, there comes a point where we're doing ourselves more harm than we're doing our adversaries. And at least if we let them transact in dollars, then we know what they're buying, right? At least. So you want to go to war in Ukraine, right? What's the logical extension for this? I wouldn't be surprised if before the Biden administration leaves office, we don't have NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine officially, because they're already there, officially in Ukraine. Maybe not directly contributing to the war effort on the front lines, but definitely handling back-end administrative tasks that free up Ukrainians to go fight on the front lines. Because, it's just fine as long as we're killing Ukrainians and Russians. That's cool. But we wouldn't want anyone from NATO to get shot at or anything. The world is rapidly spiraling toward a very, very dangerous outcome. And this kind of virtue signaling BS is just making it worse. It's like, so what? The American market is not larger than the rest of the world market. So you can't sell Deep Cool parts in America anymore. That's a bummer. So what is Deep Cool going to do? They'll just open another company, transfer the designs to that company, make the parts, and now it'll be like Deep Cold. And we'll be able to buy those components in America. And Deep Cold will not sell to Russia, but Deep Cool will. Do you see how stupid this is? Like, I am not a consumer of Pornhub, right? You may have noticed a story in the World Herald that Nebraska is going to ban Pornhub. Yep, that's right. If you're in the state of Nebraska, it'll be illegal for Pornhub to serve their product to you through an internet connection in the state of Nebraska. I understand the logic. I understand that young brains especially can become incredibly poisoned by the stuff available on Pornhub. I get it. It's a societal ill. I do understand that. And it's great that you want to signal your virtue, state of Nebraska, by banning Pornhub. But do you know that there's lots of places on the internet you can get Pornhub's product rebroadcast? Did you know that you could install a VPN on your computer and suddenly you're not in the state of Nebraska anymore? Oh, it's virtue signaling crap. It doesn't make a difference. It's going to keep stupid people from going to Pornhub, but people who have intelligence who want to get that from Pornhub are going to find a way around it because it's not hard to get around it. Well, so while I agree with the sentiment and I agree that this stuff is a societal ill, you can't ban speech. Now, you can regulate it, I guess, is what we're saying. So the thing is, there's no way to keep minors from accessing it. So we're going to regulate it and ban it because we can't keep minors from accessing it, and Pornhub can't keep minors from accessing it, and it's free. So they have a subscription option, I guess, but most of their stuff, from what I understand, is free. So any kid can go look at it. So yeah, we're gonna protect the children. I get it. I'm not super concerned about my free speech rights in this specific situation, aside from the fact that I understand that this is a slippery slope. Because if, for example, Pornhub's product poisons the minds of young people, and to protect the children, we need to ban that speech from happening in Nebraska. Perhaps, SIG's website, where they sell weapons that are used to kill people. The only point of a handgun is to shoot a human being. That's what handguns are for. That's what they've always been for. That and target practice, so you can get good at shooting human beings. Well, we can't have that. That violence is going to poison the minds of the youth in the state of Nebraska. So maybe we should ban that too. And then, all of a sudden, you're going down this road where, now it's like you watch a Netflix show and it's like they have the warnings. It used to be, I remember when I was a kid, it was like, this movie is rated R. And they would tell you all the cool things that you shouldn't be looking at in the movie. Well, now it's like smoking, self-harm, and it's like, so somewhere in this show, somebody's going to hurt themselves intentionally, and somewhere in this show, someone's going to have a cigarette in their mouth. And we need trigger warnings for that now. It's just, yeah, I don't know. So yes, I don't understand why the U.S. sees the need to do this when it's not going to work. Aside from the fact, maybe it's like the Gaza pier, where they're going to build a $325 million pier, and that is intended to only function in seas that swell no more than 3 feet. But we're going to put it on the coast of Gaza, where there are regularly 10-foot swells and storms. I'm sure it's fine. Oh, look, it broke. Let's go fix it. Do-do-do-do. We can fix it. Oh, look, it broke again. I guess we're going to have to retire it early. I'm waiting for the press conferences. We didn't retire it early, guys. It served the purpose. It delivered the aid to the warehouse. It filled up the warehouses of Gaza. That's where all the aid that it was delivered on the pier is actually at. It's in warehouses being guarded in Gaza because people are trying to steal it because they're friggin' hungry. And they won't distribute it because Hamas might get it. So maybe it's kind of like that. Maybe this is just a virtue signal so that somebody can go back and run for elections, a re-election somewhere, and say, look at how hard I am on Russia. Or look at how tough we are on Chinese companies. You know, I don't care about Chinese companies. I don't care about Russia. Yes, Russia invaded Ukraine. That was crappy. And yes, NATO pushed freaking clandestine military bases all the way up to the Russian border in Ukraine. And we were using Ukrainian biolabs to do gain-of-function research on Russia's border. Now, if Russia came to Mexico and put clandestine listening posts in Tijuana and biolabs, you think we might be a little concerned about that? We might have something to say about that. Russia did say something. They said, dude, don't do this. Please don't do this. Please, please, please don't do this. We know this base is here. We know this base is there. Please remove these bases and don't do this. And what did we do? No, we came out and said, we guarantee that Ukraine's going to be a part of NATO. They have a very clear path to be a part of NATO. Russia says, please don't do this. Please don't do this. Because the purpose of NATO is to fight Russia. And if you're going to take a country on the Russian border and make it part of your defense network that Russia sees as an offense network, because we promised when Russia collapsed that we would never expand NATO. And ever since then, all we've done is expand NATO closer to Russia. So these are power plays, power moves, big politics stuff. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe that this is all things that needed to be done. Maybe there was some reason for it that's beyond my grasp or beyond my comprehension. But the whole line that Russia invaded Ukraine just because Vladimir Putin had an itch in his big toe, that's not true. That's simply not true. Russia was provoked into attacking Ukraine because they reached a point at which the risk of not attacking Ukraine was lower. The risk of attacking Ukraine was lower than the risk of not attacking Ukraine. So there you go. And we're acting like, well, evil Russia, just unprovoked. This unprovoked attack on these poor Ukrainian people who were literally sending into a meat grinder with no training, no weapons, 4 hours rifle training before they go to the front line. Could you imagine? Some of these guys, because of the ammo shortage, have never even fired a live round until they were on the front lines because they didn't have enough ammo to practice with. And that's America's fault, you see. I had a buddy, we were at the gun knife store in Seaverville, and he's like, I just want to find a box of ammo for my AK. He bought an AK-47. I don't know why he did. He's a kid. He bought an AK-47. He's got this AK-47, and he can't find ammo anywhere for it because all the AK ammo is being shipped to Ukraine. So you can buy a box of AK ammo, but it's under Ukrainian pricing now. So it's like 7 times the normal cost. It's like when 22 ammo was like 75 cents a round, and people are like, I remember when it was like a nickel a round or something, or a penny a round. It's ridiculous. So he's not buying it. He was hoping to find some there. They haven't had any in a long time because it's all going to Ukraine. Yeah, ouch on knives. Inflation steals your freedom. Well, that's the thing. If we can take your money, we can take your time, we can take your life, then we certainly can take your freedom. Ron says, I bought a chrome-plated Desert Eagle 50 cal. Why? Because I could. I would and you don't want to shoot that because you don't want to damage the chrome plating, right? But if I had a 50 cal Desert Eagle, that would be a fun gun to go shoot. That would just be fun. Literally, is it good? Will I still have a hand when it's done, or will my wrist blow off and fly behind me from the kick from a 50 cal in my hand? Aaron, my favorite knife company is Victorinox, which I believe is my 4-inch paring knife. I think it's that one. But that was the $150 knife at the knife store. It wasn't even like one of the big Japanese companies. And yeah, there's the Swiss little symbol on the handle. I had a set of steak knives that I gave my dad 10 years ago when he was still alive, and I used those steak knives for everything. Cut veggies, sliced apples, raw meat. Those knives were $40 a set of 8 on Amazon. Yeah, exactly. Why would I spend $150 on this paring knife in the knife store when I can go buy a knife on Amazon that's going to cut my apple perfectly good for like $10? And if I have to sharpen it a couple times or even replace it, if I had $150 to spend on paring knives, I could buy 12 paring knives on Amazon for less than $150. And every month, I could write a month on each one. And I could use that to cut my apples that month. And when that month is over, I could throw it in the trash. And I would still spend less than a year on paring knives. Was it 50 pounds actually that chicken that we bought? Oh my, it was crazy. I'm on carnivore. I would have stocked up too on a lesser scale. Just me. Yeah, Liz. I mean, it was nuts. I mean, you're never going to see that price again. I mean, unless there's more. Then the next question is, why did they have so much chicken? See, this is the business owner question. My wife asked that question. She goes, why did they have so much chicken? Who screwed up this bad that there's an entire freaking case of chicken that's going to expire today that they had to sell for $1 a pound? Who screwed that up? Why did they buy so much chicken? I'm like, well, maybe people were buying something else rather than the chicken. Maybe somebody else in town had a sale on chicken, so people stopped buying the chicken at Hy-Vee to buy it somewhere else. Or maybe everybody's just on vacation, or maybe people don't have money to buy meat. Either way, if I saw steak or pork chops of that kind of special, I would have stocked up. Don't have that much experience with cooking chicken, and I'm scared of giving myself salmonella because I'm not good at preparing chicken. Well, here's the thing. My wife has come up with some amazing recipes that you can just do in a crock pot. So you put all the ingredients in the crock pot, and you turn the crock pot on high, and you walk away for the afternoon. And then when it's dinner time, you come back, and your chicken is ready to be shredded up, and you can make Hawaiian chicken or all kinds of different dishes that are just barbecue chicken. You can make a barbecue chicken sandwich, and you're just shredding it with a couple forks as it's coming apart. And of course you temp it. You just got to make sure it's up to temp. But after it all day in the crock pot, it's literally falling apart. It's up to temp. So yeah, Aaron, if you want to screw around with chicken, start off with crock pot recipes. They're the kind of things we want to teach our son. At least he knows how to make meals in a crock pot. You don't have to be sautéing things and doing all the Chef Boyardee stuff. You can just cook it in the crock pot. Biden administration has regulated or tried to regulate nearly every appliance, made everything more costly. Yeah. Saw a video of a refrigerator from the 1960s operating next to a modern refrigerator, and just the level of temperature that it was able to hold. Like the modern refrigerator actually gets warmer and cooler. And then it turns off and allows it to get warmer, and then cooler. And it's more energy efficient because it's not constantly cooling. The fridge from the 1960s was a really simple mechanism. It was a mercury switch. And when the fridge was on, it was on, baby, and it was cold. If you turn that thing up to 9, it'd be a freezer. Like, it was cold. And then when it gets to a certain temperature, the mercury breaks the connection and it turns off. And when it starts to warm up just a degree, that switch gets clipped again and it turns on. It's a beautiful science, baby. And it works so good that it's still working from the 1960s. I don't know about you guys, but how many refrigerators have you bought in the last 10 years? I think we've bought 2 in the last 10 years. So, yeah. But the stand-up freezers in my grandmother's house have lived longer than she did. We can't make good things anymore. Oh, here we go. Kimberly already answered, Aaron. She said most of the chicken breast will end up in the crock pot. Easy meals without heating up the house. Ron, another big problem is the jobs reports. The jobs are going to immigrants and government employees. We are actually losing jobs. And you're right, Ron. If you dig into the jobs reports, what you will find is that while the number of jobs has gone up, have you asked yourself, if we're creating more jobs, why is the unemployment number going up? Now, here's another thing that's fun. I don't know how many of you hang out on LinkedIn, because up until about a month or 2 ago, I really didn't mess with it too much. It is an amazing resource for information. And I'm not talking about the stupid stuff that people post. What I'm talking about is people posting, I've applied to 280 jobs, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And I'm super discouraged today, and I could just use cheering up or something. You have people posting things like that on a professional networking site. Number one, you probably shouldn't whine on the professional networking site, even if you're really, really sad. You probably shouldn't whine because no one wants to hire a whiner. So don't do that, or drama or anything else. Don't post controversial things on LinkedIn. It's not Facebook. It's not Twitter. It's LinkedIn. People are going to hire you, and if you're going to be a problem, they're not going to hire you. That's just how it goes. But on LinkedIn, you can watch and you can see, And our HR person, Marissa, in her conversations with other HR people, is confirming everybody's got ads up right now, but nobody is hiring. So and I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, we're kind of doing this at Schrock too. We're in our slow season right now. We're down one employee, but we're in our slow season. So we don't want to hire right now because if we hire, we just have to cut our other guy's hours to give the new guy hours to train with. So we're going to get a less efficient employee, and we're going to we may lose a really efficient employee because he's not getting enough hours, or she's not getting enough hours. So we don't want to hire right now, but we're going to put the ad up because if a unicorn comes along, somebody who's like the right mix of everything, we want to snap them up. But so we'll put an ad up and we'll have people apply, but we just won't hire anybody. Now that can change in the fall. It will change in the fall for sure. But right now in the summertime, it's our slow season. And that's what's going on in the job market right now. Full-time jobs are being cut, guys. We are losing full-time jobs, and they're being replaced with part-time jobs. And what you're seeing is people who currently hold either a full-time job or a part-time job are taking a second part-time job or even a third part-time job to increase their income to keep up with inflation, so they can make enough money to stay even, basically. The problem is part-time jobs are cheaper for employers because employers can cut part-time employees very easily. Your full-time employees are people who are supporting families, they have health insurance benefits, they have all this other stuff. Your part-time employees, not so much. If you lose a part-time employee, it's not the end of the world. You lose a full-timer, that can hurt. So you hire more part-timers because you can flex them in and out of the workforce as needed for budgetary constraints. Furthermore, all the new jobs are going to immigrants. We used to call them illegals. And so I thought it was illegal for people to employ illegals, right? Well, it's hard to know now, isn't it? Because when you come to a sanctuary city, why do they all want to go to New York? Why do they all want to go to California? Why do they all want to go to Chicago? Those are sanctuary cities. In those sanctuary cities, these people have the right to apply for a driver's license and receive it. Now you have an official government ID. Guess what? On that motor voter registration form you filled out, there's a box you can check to register to become a voter also. Yeah, no one's talking about that one yet. So the immigrants come to the sanctuary cities, they get driver's licenses, possibly register to vote, and then they take those driver's licenses out and they get a job. And some people maybe know they're hiring illegals. I mean, the guy who only speaks Spanish, whose family is from Venezuela, might be a clue. But if you're a construction company trying to keep your costs down because your cost of materials is through the roof, you need to keep your labor costs down, the Venezuelan guy can run a nail gun just like anybody else. The Colombian guy can run a nail gun. The Nigerian guy can run a nail gun. And it's not rocket science. Put the board up, done. Right? So what you're seeing now is jobs that are low-skill jobs that could be trained without even speaking to somebody, are almost exclusively going to migrants. Because the migrant employees can be paid literally minimum wage, can be hired on a part-time basis. When you need them, there's an unlimited supply of them. And when you're done with them, you let them all go. It's liquid labor. And that's where every single new job that's been created in the American economy in the last year has gone to a migrant. Now, that's not to say other people have not gotten jobs, right? I'm just saying the net full-time jobs employed by citizens of the United States has gone down. And those are the people who are applying for unemployment. That's why you're seeing the unemployment number go up while jobs are created. So yeah, it's destruction. It is the lowering of the standard of living of people in America. The real question, I mean, it's a real question. Gen Z and Gen Alpha, are they going to be better off than their parents? It's really hard to be better off than your parents when your parents came up in zero cost money. And now money's 5.5%, which is historically pretty normal. But it feels like oppressive, right? Because everybody else had 0% for so long. Why don't I get 0%? Sorry. You're going to have to wait 20 years to buy a house. And it's going to be a crappy house. And then you're going to have to work your way up like our grandparents did. Gen X grandparents. Like what I'm saying is the grandparents of Gen X people. So that would be greatest generation. That'd be what was before boomers. So boomers and earlier. You didn't just turn 22 and go out and buy a $500,000 house or a $250,000 house. No, Gigi, my wife's grandmother, she lived in an earthen house for a while. Then she upgraded to a chicken coop that had been converted into a house. But that's unheard of now. Like that you have tent cities now. You have Bidenvilles, I guess. Good to have you, Richard. Let's see here. Ron, did you see the report where Congress found another $140 million payment from Ukraine to Biden's business accounts when he was vice president? I did not see that one, honestly. Probably because there's been so many of them now that I probably can't keep them straight. Real question here. Now that we are prosecuting former presidents for business record violations in felonies, will the Republicans have the intestinal fortitude to do to Joe Biden what Joe Biden did to Donald Trump? Should they? It's a legit question. Because I don't think they do have the intestinal fortitude, not the Republicans we have now. That's why they're all quitting. They're getting pressure to stand up for something or get off the bus, and they're just getting off the bus because they're like, I'm here for the meal ticket, I'm here for the stock tips, I'm here for the lobby money, I'm here for the parties and the cocaine, I'm into the women, I wasn't actually here to run to actually be helpful to anybody or to serve anybody. No, I was here for myself, and if I can't be here for myself, the hell, I'll go somewhere else where I can be for myself. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be financially successful. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be comfortable in life. Whatever that comfort, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, whatever the happiness is you want to pursue. God bless you. But to do that when you're getting paid by the taxpayers to serve the taxpayers is different. That's very different. So yeah, not a lot of sympathy. China is buying gold like crazy. Some think they're hedging their bet for when sanctions are put into place for invading Taiwan. Well, I mean, when you think about it, it's not just China's central bank. All the central banks in the world are buying gold now. You know what they're not buying? U.S. Treasury bonds. And how do we know this? Because when the Fed is monetizing the debt that Congress is running up, they're doing it with the most expensive bonds that you can sell. They're doing it with 30-day treasuries, guys. They have the highest interest rate of any treasury we sell. Why? Because if they tried to sell 30-year treasuries, nobody would show up to buy them. The Fed is the only one buying 30-year treasuries from the U.S. government right now. The shorter-term ones, people will buy for a month, 3 months, something like that, to have a place to park their money, earn a little bit of interest for a month or two before they move it somewhere else. But yeah, it's not looking great. So all the central banks are buying gold because there's a general loss of faith in the United States dollar as a store of value. When you have the level of inflation that we have, and you have no gold standard backing it up, or any kind of standard of any kind backing it up, and arguably your country even has no standards at all anymore, and you're a banana republic persecuting political, rivals in court with lawfare, why would you invest in that? So yeah, we've got a problem. Now it can get fixed. It can be fixed, but it requires a change of course. And I think that's one of the things that with this election, I know there are people watching this right now who are definitely going to vote for Trump. I know there are some people who are going to hold their nose and maybe vote for Trump because they really don't like him. And I know there's probably some people watching here that voted for Biden last time and might vote for him again. And you know what? That's your right. It's not a big deal. We could all get along. At least I feel that way. The question I would ask, though, is it's obvious that the course that we are on as a country is leading us down a path of uncertainty. Let's just be generous and say uncertainty. Geopolitical uncertainty, economic uncertainty. Over here, we have a path with formulas in it that are not fun. They're not sexy, but they are proven time and again to work. We need growth again. How do you get growth? Technological innovation. We got to take the reins. We got to let the horses run, because you got to get off the back of crypto, completely off the back of crypto. And yes, it's going to destroy legacy banking. Good, because legacy banking is a 20th century paper system that has been hodgepodge together with a bunch of digital workarounds to make it seem like it's modern and fancy with your app. But it's really not. It's really slow as tar, it's expensive to run, inefficient, and crypto would do a much better job of decentralized finance than a bank ever would. But then your JP Morgans of the world wouldn't exist. They're not needed anymore. So in a world where you don't need bankers anymore, do we want to destroy the entire banking industry? Does the US government want to give up control over the entire economy? Of course not. But if we don't start letting some of these innovations in, our rivals are going to innovate around us. This is what's happening in South Korea. This is what's happening in Japan. The rivals are finding other methods of doing things that are more efficient. And meanwhile, we're still playing with our freaking VCRs over here. They've moved beyond their streaming, and we're on VCRs. That's literally the technological equivalent from modern banking to crypto. And it's only going to get worse. Because what's going to happen when I can go online and get a loan, when I can fund a line of credit for my business using the Ethereum blockchain with decentralized finance from South Korea? Well, the US government will just make it illegal to do. And I'll just go get a Palau ID, become a digital citizen of the nation of Palau, and then they'll give me an address, they'll give me a phone number, and that's where the check will go. From my decentralized purchase that I'll have to put into a freaking paper check, because that's what it is, and it'll forward to me and I'll deposit it in my bank. Why are we forcing our most innovative citizens to either become criminals by buying a water cooler for their computer from Amazon? Literally, you're a felon if you buy a deep cool product now. Or go through all these shenanigans to get something done that we should be able to do in America much easily, but we just don't. So it's clear that we're going to need a change of path, right? Something has to change. The direction has to shift, even though it's got to move. But right now, everything is just, we're doing this, and this isn't working. So I think a lot of people might choose to vote for anybody but Biden, because what we're doing now is not working. And at least if we give this other guy a shot, or another shot, or whatever you want to say, maybe I don't like him. Maybe I don't like the way he talks. Maybe he's too bombastic for me. Maybe he doesn't look presidential. Maybe. But the policies are a change of direction. And that's what our government needs to do right now. Now, the question is, how much of a direction change can you get in a 4-year term? The answer is not a lot, which is why Trump is supposed to announce his vice presidential candidate during the debate, during the convention. And that's the person he's going to be setting up to carry the torch after him, potentially. Because in 4 years, he's not going to be able to do everything he needs to do. He could do a lot. And I think this time around, with no repercussions hanging over his head, and all the people that have wronged him, any sentiment that he had before about not doing something because it would set a bad precedent and it could be later on used by Democrats against Republicans, that's out the window now. Now you're going to see the seams on the hardball. And when it hits the Democrats in the face, there's going to be blood and tears and teeth, and it's going to be a mess. And then entire departments hopefully will just go away. Well, Thor, we can't get rid of the EPA because the EPA, does studies and reporting for the meat packing industry. And if we don't have that because of the laws that were passed, it'll be illegal to pack meat. So without the EPA, we can't pack meat. We have to have the EPA or we won't have meat. And that's obviously bullcrap, because all you need to do is change the law. So it's important that we get a Republican president and a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, that we can go through and we can say, we're getting rid of this. And yes, it's important that we do. The food supply of America is an important thing. The government should have some involvement there. You can make an argument. So let's take the USDA portion and make it part of the Department of Commerce. There you go. The rest of it is gone. We'll take the USDA people and boom, the other Department of Commerce. And the rest of it is gone. Poof, gone. Don't need the office building. Convert it to apartments, sell it. Put migrants in it. I don't care. Get rid of it. We don't need the administrators. We don't need the bureaucrats. We don't need all the reporting and the supplies and the budget. Get rid of it. The screaming that will happen if that happens is going to be worth the price of admission. Bitcoin update, Steve. I've been out of the loop a little bit here in the last week, so I don't have any inside baseball for you because I took the week off. But Bitcoin price is pretty much unchanged, which is kind of stunning considering that inflation is inflation. But it's also kind of stunning considering interest rates are interest rates. Bitcoin is an interest rate sensitive commodity. So when interest rates are higher, Bitcoin price is typically suppressed. If we get rate cuts, Bitcoin price will probably go up. If we get rate cuts, that's inflationary. So it makes sense. A lot of this makes sense. So I'm still holding out that I think Bitcoin is going to be $250,000 or so within a year or 2 years, on its way to a $1 million plus per coin price, which is why I'm never going to sell any Bitcoin again, because I screwed up, sold a bunch of it and I shouldn't have. But I'm never going to sell any more again because I think holding on to it is going to be the best bet, even from just an inflationary perspective. Nettie says, good morning. Thanks for the great information. Helps me with my customers at work. Need help, please. Went to trim one dead tree limb today, and now we have a bunch of tree limbs. Is there a location in Omaha open to taking dead tree limbs? I don't know. I mean, I know you can haul them to the dump and pay a fee and dump them. I don't know of any organization that can. Obviously, the trash, you have to cut them and bundle them, and the trash will take them. But if they're like major tree limbs, then you have to bring somebody in to cut it. But a lot of times, if you have a big tree that's down, you can go on Craigslist or something like that, or on Facebook, and just put up a thing that's like free firewood. I just need you to cut it and haul it away, and you'll have somebody will come with a chainsaw and cut that wood and haul it away because they want the firewood. So that's an idea anyway. You can try it. Online gambling apps are worse than Pornhub, Ron says. Yeah, all this stuff, especially like the sports betting apps and things like that. Now there's a new one that's out where you can invest in professional sports players. So, let's say you want to invest in LeBron James. So the way that works is if LeBron James signed on with the invest in the player company, LeBron James promises to take 20% of his salary from playing basketball and put it into this fund that's used to issue shares of an invest in the player fund. Then as he goes through his career, as he does better and better and better, those shares in theory appreciate, becoming worth more money, and then you can make money by investing in basketball players or football players or baseball players or whatever. Also a story out this week that Gen Z and millennials are stepping away from stock investing and choosing to invest in things like classic cars and art and other things that they can actually hold and see that can't be taken from them or dropped to $0 in value. No idea why they would have a fear about that. Completely oblivious. But let's see. Too much chicken for Memorial Day? There's a lot of chicken. Come on now. Let me do my thing. All right. Ken says, excellent. So when is Kimberly publishing her Crockpot Hacks ebooks? The lovely Kimberly's Crockpot Secrets. My son has 2 full-time jobs. He's a network administrator and works from home. He is able to manage both jobs at the same time. It's crazy what can be done nowadays. What's funny is Dell commanded this is an article I saw on LinkedIn, right? And again, this is the difference in perspective. if you're approaching it as an employee and you see the story, Dell commands all employees to return to the office or else. And 50% of Dell's employees chose or else. Okay, so from an employee's perspective, you're like, yeah, they want to work from home. I want to work from home too, so I would tell them to go stuff their job where the sun don't shine too. From Dell's perspective, 50% of their workforce was doing nothing at home. So we got them all to quit. We didn't have to fire them. We don't have to pay severance. We don't have to pay unemployment. Nope, they quit. Morons. They quit. So anyway, there you go. When Dell can lose half of its workforce and still make computers all day long, you know something is wrong with the world, right? And this is work from home. Another company, was it Dell or was it another company? I forget who. Cracked down on mouse jigglers. If you go to Amazon and look up mouse jiggler, and it's a little device you put on your mouse that physically moves your mouse on the table. So it's not software that can be detected on the computer. It physically moves them. It's a jiggler. It moves the mouse on the table, giving the impression that you're at your computer doing work while you're doing laundry or doing the dishes or taking the kids to the zoo or whatever else. You're getting paid to work, but you're not actually working. And then the argument is, well, if they get the job done, isn't it the same thing? The answer is no, it's not the same thing. Because if you are capable of completing all of your work in half of the time that you're billing me for, you're stealing from me. I could pay you half as much and get the same amount of work. So no, it's not the same thing. I get the job done. Why does it matter? It matters. Because the employer can't monitor you to say, look at that, they're completing their workload in 4 hours and they're sit there for 8 hours or another 4 hours playing solitaire. So maybe if I have other tasks that I can give them to do, I can gain efficiencies in my business by giving them other tasks. Yes, that means I'll have to pay them a little more because I'm giving them extra work, so I'll give you a pay raise, and then you'll get a promotion, and you'll do a little extra work, and you'll move up in responsibility in the organization. And that's how meritocracy works. Working from home and doing the bare minimum to be considered proficient in your specific task as assigned has never been the American way. I get it from a bureaucratic point of view. That's how government works. That's not how free enterprise works. Not even close. Those people get fired because those people they're not contributing to the growth of the organization. Or then they become people in radio where your management just heaps more and more and more stuff on you that you can't handle because there are no more hours in the day, but you have no choice but to try to handle it because budget and advertising declines and things like that. Oh, let's see. Voting. Ron says voting. The government also put in place that it's not illegal to vote. Yeah, I saw that too. As long as you didn't intend to vote illegally. So it's a state of mind now. If you thought you had the right to vote because you got a driver's license and you checked I want to vote, I want to register to vote. Well, I thought I could. They let me. Well, then you're not a criminal. But if you intentionally do it, then you're a criminal. Poppy says, Thor, I'm looking to buy a new TV. Can you give me a recommendation on what a good brand would be? Yeah, actually, I am partial myself to Samsung. They make really great screens. I would stay away from anything that is Roku, like build the Roku TVs, the Fire TVs, any Amazon TVs, anything like that is going to be completely cloud enabled. They're all cloud enabled now, but those require you to sign into an Amazon account, and then everything that you do is monitored. They require you to sign into a Roku account, and everything that you do in any app on the TV is monitored. The Samsung stuff, yeah, Samsung's monitoring you too, but at least there's not another layer in there. So like if you get a TCL TV with Roku, then you have two companies monitoring you. You know, it's just a little less. The other thing that's nice though is if you have a Sam's Club or a Costco membership, check out TVs there. When I was in Sam's Club the other day, there was an 85-inch television for like $1,500. I bought an 80-inch television for the front of the Omaha Service Center. Back in the day, it cost me $5,000. That was like 2 years ago. So the cost of TVs has come down substantially. So don't assume that what you could afford 2 years ago is the same today. Make sure you go out and shop. Find out how big of a space you have to fill so you don't get tempted to buy the 85-inch TV and then come home and find out you only have like 46 inches to put it up. Make sure you know what you're dealing with on space. But I would go with a Samsung. If you don't do a Samsung and LG, they make a good TV. I don't like their software in the TV as much, but they make a good TV. Samsung software is really good, though. So I do like their brand probably the best. Ron says, Thursday night drinking game. During the debate, you have to take a drink every time Biden says Trump is a felon. Yeah, I don't drink anymore, though, so I can't play that game, Ron. I'll have to come up with some other, like, every time he says Trump's a felon, I have to do, like, 10 push-ups or something, you know? By the end of the night, I'm like a cripple. Like, oh, gosh, I can't move my arms. Oh, update on Rabbit. Did I ever receive it? Roger, that's a great question. No, I didn't receive my Rabbit. They sent me an email the other day and said, we are overwhelmed with the number of requests we're getting from Rabbit users. And I'm like, that's right, I ordered one of those. Where the hell is my Rabbit? When did I order that? I went back in my email and looked at my receipt. I ordered it in April. It was in stock in April, and I haven't received it yet. So I sent him an email and said, I just want to cancel this. I haven't received it. I ordered it in April. You didn't send it to me. Just cancel it. Give me my $250 back. And I got an email back within an hour saying that it was canceled, and they refunded my money. So there's my update on Rabbit. I refunded it because they never sent it to me. Let's see. One thing to look at is what apps do you use and make sure the TV has them. Not all TVs do. That's true. Samsung has an app store where you can get apps, kind of like an Apple app store, and you can also remove the apps you don't use from the TV, which is kind of nice as well. I found out that Max is doing podcasts, and the first one is the story of what happened to Max and Amy. Oh, yeah. Well, Elizabeth, fill me in on that one when you hear. I'm curious. I'm always curious. I'm pretty certain I know what happened. Without going into too many details, advertising is down. If again, listen to your radio, but don't listen as a listener. Listen as a business owner. Listen to the commercials. Whenever you hear a commercial promoting something for the radio station, that's fill. That's a filler spot that was included in there because they didn't have inventory to put in that spot. Whenever you hear a PSA, fatherhood.org, one of those things, those government commercials, they're required by law to air a certain number of those. Back in the old days, they would run paid commercials during the day, and in the middle of the night when no one wanted their commercials running, they would run the government commercials to satisfy that. Because there's no regulation about what time of day you have to run those commercials. So when you hear them during the day, that means there's no inventory. They didn't sell that inventory for the commercials. So when you add up all the spots that are promotions for something at the radio station or promotions for a show, and you add up all the government PSAs as well in there, and then if you sat down and just made a list of each company you heard advertised in an hour, you'd find there's maybe 5 or 6 companies total per hour that are advertising on your average radio station. And that's simply not sustainable. And the problem is, normally, if you're trying to get more of something, you reduce the price, right? So if you lower the price of the commercials, then your existing advertisers will spend less money. And you'll get new advertisers coming in, but the amount of money that you're getting is the same as it was before. So yes, you have more commercials to run, but you're getting the same amount of money. So unfortunately, lowering the cost of the commercials doesn't always make business sense. So instead, the way that we used to do this back in the day was you had to increase listenership. You had to do things on the air to get people to listen. TSL, time spent listening. And most people listen to a radio station for 15 minutes before they change it. Why? That's when a commercial break happens. So how do you keep people listening? Through the commercial break. One of the things that was beautiful, when I was doing the show on KFAB, and I was so envious that I wasn't running the board on my own show, because Scott Voorhees does this, and it sounds so good. So like, when you hit 55 minutes at the end of the hour, if you're not interested in the top of the hour news, you can pretty much tune out from 55 minutes all the way through like 6 minutes into the next hour. So for the next 11 minutes, you're not going to receive any content you're interested in. You're going to hear commercials and news. And the last 2 minutes of the host filling in 2 minutes before they go to commercial break for the top of the hour. So you're not going to hear anything of consequence in that amount of time. But what Scott did is he would, rather than having an 11-minute stretch of like nothingness, he would run a local commercial, and then he would pop back in, and he would say like, Did you hear this one about the crazy pug that tore someone's face off? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you about that coming up next on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And then he would run 2 or 3 more commercials, and then he would pop back in. And before he go to news, he'd be like, so there was this pug, right? And it was like, went after this lady and totally tore her face off. It was a terrible story, but, when you find out why the pug tore her face off, you might side with the pug. I'm going to tell you why it happened coming up next. Go to news break. Come back top of the hour. So the story of the lady with the pug. This is why it happened. She was torturing the pug, and so the pug tore her face off. So yes, the pug was fine. And so he took a stupid story about some stupid thing, whether it's a tourist rock in some city in some town in Nebraska or something, or a festival, or and he will take that and stretch that and break up that commercial break into digestible chunks. It's a better experience for the listener. You enjoy your radio more. It takes a little more effort from the guy running the radio station to do it, but it keeps you listening. So during Scott's program, time spent listening tends to be longer. During Gary's program in the morning, time spent listening tends to be longer. Now the problem is your morning show and your drive time, those are the most valuable times on radio. So that's when you have your hosts on that you're paying the most money to. So what ends up happening is revenue is down. We have to cut costs. There's only a couple costs you can cut in business that really move the bottom line. Marketing, which if you cut marketing, then you have lower sales later. It becomes a doom loop. So you got to be careful with that. And people. Personnel is your most expensive thing in business, your labor cost. So if you have a morning show where you have 2 people who have been on for a very long time receiving 4% annual raises for great work, they're receiving endorsements, they're getting paid out commissions on their endorsements, the whole bit, and you have to cut. There's no part-time people. You can't cut enough part-time people to hit your budget goal. So you have to cut somebody who's paid a lot of money. So you cut your morning show. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they had a scandal or anything. It was all dollars and cents and numbers. Because the advertisers that were sponsoring with those hosts, they'll just switch to other hosts. We'll keep them as advertisers. We'll switch them to another host. You probably heard that already on some programs, right? So anyway, I would be, Elizabeth, when you hear what happens with that podcast, I'll try to find time to listen to it myself, but if I don't, let us know next week what happened there. I was just curious. Let's see. Oh, there's the link. Thank you, Elizabeth. Aaron said if you played a drinking game like that, you'd be drunk in 3 minutes. Okay, so question. We're working on a backup service, and it's intended to be for Schrock business. So the point of the backup service is in a business environment, you don't really care about file backup. You care about image backup. Why? If you get hit with a ransomware attack, like the company that services all these auto dealerships, we want to build a backup software that we could literally bring your backups in. So, oh gosh, Thor, we're hit with ransomware. What are we going to do? We download your backups to like a hard drive in our Papillion Service Center. We come out to your business and we literally wipe every computer completely clean, and we restore the backups, the image backups of what the computer looked like yesterday before the attack happened. So maybe you lose a few hours of work, but then your whole network is back up again. Instead of being 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you are back online in a matter of hours, because every computer on your network was backed up with an image. So even if somebody was saving stuff on their local computers instead of on the server, it's back. The way everything was set up, it's all back. Where everybody's favorites were at, they're all back. All the saved passwords, they're all back. All these things that cripple you after a ransomware attack that take forever to get figured out, all brought back instantaneously. So then what we had to do is figure out logistics. Let's say you have a business with 15 computers and a server. We obviously can't upload 16 backups overnight, regardless of how fast your internet is. It would take too long. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to have some kind of a device running the train station, basically, to keep the trains on time. So in other words, this computer got backed up, we transferred the backup to a holding drive here, and we're uploading it here, and we're going to run all night long, we'll run at 100% internet, but during the day we're only going to use 50% of your available upload bandwidth so we don't cripple your internet. And then when this one is done, the next one that's queued in will come in and we'll send that one up. So then we'll have a rotation going where every day, every 2 days, we will have backups of every computer on the network. And over the weekend, when nothing is happening in your business, we'll get a complete backup of everything over the weekend. And we can set the number of backups. That's the plan anyway, right? For consumers, it's different. You don't want to have to add an appliance to your network to hold the backups. You want to have a backup that runs from your computer to the internet. How do you do that? Image backups are huge. They're big. So think like if you have a 1 terabyte hard drive in your laptop and it's half full, we're talking an image is 500 gigabytes in size. It's going to take a long time to upload that. You have to have a place to store that in the meantime. So we can't use your hard drive to store it because we're taking an image of that hard drive. Now we need a secondary drive of some kind, but not every laptop or desktop has the ability to hold a secondary drive to do this. So now we're back to the question of the appliance. Do we do an appliance instead? Where you'd plug this into your network and it would transfer over the network, and then we have to come out and set it up and everything, and you'd get a text message if your backup failed, but it wouldn't be a file backup, it would be an image backup. So you couldn't go browse it looking for one file, not easily anyway. This would be like if you dropped your laptop in the bathtub and you got a new laptop, we could restore the image back to your new laptop and all of your stuff would be back. We'd have to install drivers and stuff, but all your stuff would be back. That's what we're trying to do. So, once we figure out all the technical stuff that needs to happen with this, the question becomes, how much would you pay? We know for businesses, for backing up, to have a solution like that can back up 15 computers and a server, and if your building burnt to the ground, we could set up in a temporary warehouse for you 15 computers and a server and literally restore your data so you are up and running again within 24 or 48 hours. That's incredibly valuable for disaster planning for a business, because the amount of money you'll spend on a backup, let's say you're spending $300, $400 a month on that backup system. The amount of money you're going to spend if you were down for 2 weeks is going to be way more than that. So you have no problem doing that. Now, if I came to you as a consumer and said you're going to spend $400 a month to back up your computer, you would slap me in the face and tell me I'm crazy. Because number one, you don't have 15 computers to back up. We're talking about backing up one computer. Number two, that's a crazy amount of money for backups. I would find another solution or not back up at all. So you can get Carbonite. Carbonite runs about $30 a year for the base model. You can add things onto it. The base model for $30 a year doesn't back up anything larger than 2 gigabytes in size, doesn't back up any video files, doesn't take an image, has an app where you can browse your backup files. Why the hell would you want to do that? Oh, I'm going to look at my backups. Oh, look at this file. That's funny. Why would you do it? Why don't you just open it on your computer, right? And then if your computer does go down and you have a Carbonite backup and you need to restore that backup, it can take between 3 and 7 days to download your entire backup back to your computer again. So, issues. Now, under a scenario with a Schrock backup, let's say your computer goes kaput and you have a backup in the cloud, and you call us up and say, Thor, I want to buy a new computer. I need a Gallant. Drop mine in the bathtub. Can you get me set up? Here's this, that, the other. And you're a subscriber to the backup service. Well, now, why am I blurry? That's super weird. Now, what we can do in our shop is we can say, okay, here's this laptop, and we're going to install the backup software on here, and we're going to log in as this customer, and then we're going to say restore his backup. And it's going to download the backup, which is going to take a long time. It's going to, not days, but download the backup. Once the backup is downloaded to the local computer, it will then install the image, and then everything is right with the world again. And you can come pick up your computer, and literally when you come pick up your new computer from the shop, it is your old computer from the backup. It's amazing. So, I don't think that we can build a system that does that for less than $65 a year. So, we wouldn't want to bill it monthly because the cost of processing a credit card transaction is so high. They charge you like a dime every time you run a transaction, a nickel. So we'd want to run it annually. So we're talking $65. So for $65, roughly, this is what you would get as a consumer. You would have a backup set to back up your computer to a rack in our Papillion Service Center. We're considering also mirroring that rack into the Des Moines Service Center. So in the event that internet was down in Papillion or something, you couldn't hit that rack, we can hit the Des Moines rack instead as a backup. And then the two would synchronize overnight or something. I don't know. That's all stuff for Schrock Business to figure out. That's not my department. So anyway, it would be an image-based backup, and we would set the frequency. It would probably be a smaller frequency because, number one, let's say it's your laptop. To take an image of your laptop, the laptop has to be turned on and open. So if you shut your lid and put it to sleep, and you open your lid, we don't know yet. Will the backup resume? Will the backup have to start over? What's going to happen? And so basically then we're going to do a backup on your local computer. Your local computer will then take that backup and upload it to the web server. The web server will hold that backup until a new one comes up, and then we'll create a rotation. Maybe we'll keep the last 3 backups. You can probably choose how many you want to keep. And I would say you have to keep at least 2, because if you get hit with ransomware and then we do a backup, we don't want to overwrite your good backup with a bunch of encrypted garbage files, right? So the more iterations you keep, the higher your cost will be because you pay for how much space you're using on the server, on the rack. So the base price would be $65 if you had a multi-terabyte hard drive that was pretty full, or you're backing up several external hard drives as well. Then your cost would possibly be higher because of the amount of space you're using on the rack, the amount of storage. But $65 would be the price of entry per year. Now, your transmission to our rack would be encrypted, and it would remain encrypted on our servers. Yes, if the government commanded us to decrypt your stuff, we probably would be able to do that. Would we ever mess around decrypting all your backups for fun? No, that's stupid. We wouldn't do that because who has time for that? But your data would be encrypted on our network. So if we were ever compromised, let's say, and somebody got in and stole everybody's backup, it would all be encrypted, and therefore it would be of no use to anybody who stole it. It would be decrypted by the software that's on your computer when you download your backup to restore it. Then we would decrypt it at that time. So that's when all the hard work would happen. So it would be encrypted before it's uploaded, decrypted when it's downloaded and restored, stored locally, not stored on an Amazon cloud, not stored in China, not stored overseas where the rent is cheaper, but stored in a rack in the Papillion Service Center full of hard drives. So $65 a year, guys. Is that a price that you think is fair? Is that a price you think is low? What would a fair price be for that? And of course, we can move things around a little bit. Like if you're a grandma that has a 120 gig hard drive, you don't need a lot of space on the rack. You just need a little bit of space. So we could totally say, okay, let's just charge you less. Have a good one, bud. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this because I really value you guys' opinion on this. And it will help me when I'm setting up the software. We set it up for businesses. Cost is not the primary concern. Reliability is the primary concern. When we set it up for consumers, reliability is expected. Cost is a concern. And so we have to find out, should I build the software so that it can function for consumers and businesses? Or should we just say, this is probably something that's best kept on the business side. Let's just engineer it to run for businesses, and consumers will just use a less expensive option like Carbonite or something. All right, let's see what you guys think here. Okay, Marion, Scott Voorhees doesn't have to be all concerned about his listeners tuning out. When you're as good as him, they'll wait. Yeah, this is true. This is true. But yeah, you still want to, you'll wait, but you want to keep everybody waiting. So one of the things that we did one year was B107.3 in Lincoln we did this with. And it was probably the most successful radio campaign that has ever been run in Lincoln. It was called the Computer a Day Giveaway. And so B107 came to us and said, Thor, we need you to build us like 30 computers. We don't have a huge budget for this. So here's what we'd like to do. We'll pay you X amount of money for the computers. So basically, we got paid just under cost. It cost us a little bit of money to build the computers and deliver them. But in exchange for that, it was the Computer a Day giveaway powered by Schrock Innovations on B107.3 for 30 days. Schrock Innovations, Schrock Innovations, Schrock Innovations, name recognition. That has a value. Then, of course, they threw some commercials in for us, so we had some commercials running throughout there as well. We did some appearances on the morning show to talk about how awesome the modular computers were and things like that. And then every day, throughout the day, you would listen for a secret word. Sometimes a secret word would pop up between commercial breaks. And then whoever is DJing in the booth at that time would take the seventh caller or whatever, and the seventh caller would be in the qualification to win a computer the next day on the morning show. Must be listening to win. So you had to be listening to qualify. Every hour you're trying to qualify to be caller 7. So you listened all day long to get qualified. And then the next morning, you don't know when during the morning show they're going to do the drawing. So now you have to listen to the whole friggin' morning show too. And then they do the drawing. And if you win the computer, they pick up the phone and they call you. Or no, sorry. If you won, they would tell you, call the phone number now. And if you were listening and you called in, you got yourself a $3,000 computer from Schrock Innovations. And that ran for a month. When they dropped the cue to call, the phone lines were so busy, they were so overwhelmed that Windstream literally went circuits unavailable. So many people were trying to call in to win those computers. They went, sorry, no service. You're trying to call the radio station that said the call couldn't go through. It was probably the most successful promotion, certainly the most successful radio promotion we've ever done. And we wanted to do it year after year with them, but the DJ was like, we did that last year, man. I want to do something new this year, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you really don't. You want to do that again. It worked last year. Keep doing it till it doesn't work. Then change it. Then innovate. But if it works, you don't have to rewrite the novel. And so, we've talked to several radio stations. Part of the problem is now radio stations run automated. So very often there's not anybody there to answer the phone when there's a cue to call. But easily remedied. The radio station knows when they have to do the cue to call. Grab some rando producer guy and have him program it in to play at a certain time, and then have him sitting there to take 7 phone calls. It's not like you have to have a full-timer sitting in the studio to take 7 phone calls an hour. It's a pain in the butt for sure, but since when do radio stations care if their employees have a pain in the butt? They don't. So do the job. And then, of course, you have, during this promotion, people are listening, right? Time spent listening is up. So then your sales reps go out and say, we're going to run this computer a day promotion, and it's going to cause a dramatic increase in listenership during the morning show. We have a special ad package for you for the morning show. Would you like to buy it? Short-term package. We're not asking for a long-term investment, just for this month while we do this promotion. I think I can do that. Sounds great. Then the next month they come back, and this is the new promotion we have this month. Just a 1-month promotion. Sure you want to do this one? This one's a good deal. Like, you got a lot of business off that last one. Sure, I'll do that. There you go. It's Radio 101, right? Okay, let's see. Oh, of course, Elizabeth, I'm not saying that Max and crew did anything wrong or missed goals or underperformed in any way. They were consistently meeting expectations. You don't get to live in radio unless you meet expectations and exceed expectations. What I'm saying is they were the only air talent that could be cut that would free up enough budget to put the station back in the black. So they had to be cut. It wasn't that they earned it. It wasn't that they did something wrong. It was that it was money. It was just money, plain and simple. Z-Dog says, you guys need to look at the free stream box for watching TV. I believe he pays $3 a month. I can watch movies and shows. I get locals from anywhere. The box with the discount is $500, and that's it. If you go to State Fair, there's a company that sells their box with like 5,000 channels. All you need is internet to stream it. Yeah, that's the thing. The way we consume content, I was thinking about this actually this morning. When my dad grew up, when TV was still black and white, and it was like a new thing, right? Um, you would watch your Roy Rogers show, or you would watch Lucy, the I Love Lucy show, or whatever. Ed Harrison's on. You'd watch that. You had to be there live. You had to watch it live. If you missed it, you felt like you missed out on something. Everyone else was talking about it, so you tuned in. Then, when I was growing up, there were still events like that. There were Saturday morning cartoons. The cartoons didn't play all day long. They were Saturday morning, and then after 3 p.m. on some stations. They would either run talk shows for people who stayed home all day, or they would run cartoons. Like Fox 42 would run cartoons. You watch your He-Man or whatever. So the way we watch TV now, my kids have no concept of having to wait a week for the next episode. Some streaming services are still doing that, and it really ticks people off, like that they release one every week to keep you subscribed. Ghost Adventure still does that. So all the Discovery Plus channels do that. Disney Plus still does that. But like Netflix, when they drop a show, they drop a show. And you can binge the whole show and move on or whatever. Once you binge a show, they bet you're going to look for another show to binge. So as long as they keep cracking out new shows, you're good to go. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. The way that we watch TV is going to be completely different for our kids. And the way that their kids watch TV and consume content is going to be completely different. And trying to predict it, it's not my industry, so I'm not even going to try. Oh, excuse me. Oh, there were some creative differences, Elizabeth. Is that what the podcast said? They wanted them to fight or be more controversial. Gotcha. So that sounds to me like a consultant. Consultants come into radio stations from time to time, and they say, this is what we need to do to increase listenership on your station. We need to have... I played the Christmas song when I filled in on KFAB that last time from... Scrooged? I don't know, whatever. I forget what it was. But literally, it was a song about how you could create a culture war around plastic Christmas trees. And you could pit the live Christmas tree salespeople against the artificial tree salespeople. And these artificial tree salespeople are killing Christmas and killing traditions. They're killing Jesus Christ himself with their fake Christmas trees. And all you're trying to do is bring back wholesome, genuine, true, Jesus-worshiping Christmas into your house with the purchase of a live Christmas tree every year. So you have to make it a culture war. You have to make it a conflict because people are tribal. And that's what they're saying they should have done. So it works. It works. Tribalism does work unless you want to get people from both tribes. Then it's a little more challenging. So maybe they wanted them to fight with each other so they each have their tribe of followers. Yeah, not everything in life has to be yelling and screaming at each other. That's why sometimes watching Fox News is painful. When they were doing like we report, you decide, and the two sides would yell at each other and say things that weren't true, and the host is in the middle like, well, thank you both for being here. We'll let our viewers decide. I didn't need to hear people screaming at each other. Could I just hear the viewpoints and make a decision? Like, that would have been more beneficial if I could have had one person read me a statement paper from each party, and then we could make a decision on what's real. Would have been a lot better. But that's not what we consume in media. That's not what cable news does. Cable news is extremely tribal, which is why you have leftists watching MSNBC with no idea what's happening on Fox's channel, and people watching Fox with no idea what's happening on MSNBC. And then we wonder why we can't talk to each other. All right, so Poppy says that's a steal of a deal for $65 annually. I mean, it's double what you'd pay for Carbonite. Do you see why I'm like nervous about this? Like, yes, it's local. Yes, it's secure. Yes, it's different. It has some competitive advantages. But, Aaron, she said the closed captioning, which is auto-generated, by the way, said that our data was going to be stored in, and I was saying, ARACK, like a 42U rack for networking equipment located in our Papillion Service Center. But I said it's going to be stored on a rack in our service center, and it put IRAQ, like we're going to put them in a rack. Like, well, let's put the servers in a rack. That'll be a great place. That's funny. That is super funny. All right, let's see here. Full backup at $65 a year seems reasonable, Steve says. Okay. Bob, any opinion on Soros wanting to buy so many radio stations? Oh, it's not good, but it's kind of like Jeff Bezos buying newspapers. Difference does it make? The media is changing, guys. So everybody used to go after Rush Limbaugh because conservative radio was the thing that was getting people this information that was penetrating the filters of mass media. The NBCs, the ABCs, the CBS can't control the narrative if you got Rush Limbaugh out there blowing up the narrative. Well, now pick your guy. There are tons of guys out there all blowing up. Tons of ladies out there too blowing up the narrative. You can watch podcasts. You can read Substack. There's all kinds of places you can get your content. The days of tuning in to a broadcast at a specific time. Why do you think we offer Compute This as a podcast? I want you to be live. If I just wanted to record a show, I could record a podcast and put it up. There's something about a live program that's different, that's better, that's real, that I like. I hate doing recorded shows, guys. I know you don't like listening to them necessarily, but I really do try hard to give you guys content in those recorded shows. I do have a couple of what we call evergreen shows that I can run if I get hit by a bus on the way to the station, for example. And Thor's going to be in the hospital in traction for a week, so we're going to have to run an evergreen show. Let me tell you about what makes a modular computer different. You know, stuff that never changes, never goes sideways. But live, there's something about being live. So George Soros wants to buy a bunch of radio stations so he can control the content. Same reason why he got a bunch of DAs elected, so he can control who gets prosecuted. But the problem is, just like Jeff Bezos owning the New York or the Washington Post and supporting its liberal leanings doesn't make me any more or less inclined to read the Washington Post. In fact, it kind of damages its reputation in this tribal world we live in, doesn't it? So podcasts are the ultimate tribal media. Like I saw the other day, I don't know what happened, but Bill O'Reilly got into it with Dan Bongino or something. And Dan Bongino, he cut loose on the guy. He was dropping F-bombs. He was calling him names. And, Bill O'Reilly had his time, had his day. He's kind of gone now and, desperately trying to remain relevant. I say that, with my 52 people watching, I'm sure more people are watching Bill O'Reilly's network than me. But with that said, he's certainly not the influential person he was when he was doing the O'Reilly Factor on Fox. Right? Same thing with Tucker. Tucker certainly has a network going, and there are certainly people watching it, and he's making a living doing it, but he is not creating anywhere near the amount of content or viewership that he had while he was on Fox. So while the mainstream media is in decline and people are shifting to podcasting, there's an age demographic difference here because, if I told you had to listen on iHeartRadio, you couldn't listen terrestrial. You had to listen on iHeartRadio. How many of you would know how to actually do that? And a lot of you will say, I do, I know. But there's going to be a handful of you, 10% of my audience, that won't know how to do that. Because they turn on 1110 KFAB or they turn on WHO and they leave it on that station all the time. They get in their car, it's already set to that. They get in their house, the radio's already set to that. It is what it is. That's what we listen to. And that's great, but that's not the way that anyone under the age of 30 listens to media anymore. Now it's an on-demand world where I got 30 minutes to drive into work here, so I can listen to Compute This if I put it at 1.5 times speed. You ever do that with an audiobook? Or like Tucker Carlson at 1.25 is fine because he has a lot of pregnant pauses, except when he laughs. Then he sounds like a hyena. He's like, yeah, and you're like, whoa, what was that? Because you're playing him at 1.25 times. Speed me up to 1.25 and see what I sound like. Maybe I sound terrible. Disney flop, 160 million Acolyte. Yeah, that series, the Star Wars series, did bomb pretty good, but they're gonna put that to bed by having Inside Out 2, and it's gonna do really good. Inside Out 2 looks like a pretty decent movie actually. Ah, they got a new station manager. Now the closed caption said rack and it's uh, everybody misses Rush, Aaron. I was thinking about him the other day. $65 seems reasonable, Bob says, to keep my data in a rack. I will compare it to what I currently pay. Me too. I listened to him on WHO radio from 87 to when he first came on. Yeah, it's crazy. CNN yells back and forth too, but MSNBC has panicked that Trump will be sending a SEAL Team 6 to arrest them and take them to Gitmo. I know, isn't that funny? Like, the hyperbole. And people believe it that watch that station. That's what I'm saying. It's so tribal. You've invested in those hosts. You believe what they say. And you don't ever stop to think, like, what are the logistics behind sending a SEAL team to go grab MSNBC? That could be difficult. I have not heard of Ground News, the news service called Ground News. I haven't heard of them. All right, so $65 is not. I didn't have anybody come back and say, "WTF, man, $65 is crazy. How about 35?" You know, that's kind of what I wanted to figure out, because we can pare the features back and lower the price, and we can go to even to a file backup rather than an image backup for consumers. Maybe we build both options in, so you can choose whether you wanted to back up files or you wanted to back up images. The thing with an image is when we back up an image, guys, it includes everything that's changed. And then we have a complete image that we can restore. All your programs come back, everything comes back. When we back up files, now we're talking about keeping multiple copies of every file in a backup. And then if you delete a file from your computer, how long do we hold on to it in the backup? How many backup cycles do we keep it? So inevitably what this leads to is more storage space. You're going to end up using a lot more space on the hardware rack than if you were just doing an image backup. So that's one of the reasons that the image backup takes longer to process and longer to upload. We're talking 20, 30 minutes to process, and then to upload could take all night, depending on the size of your hard drive. So it just depends, again, on... The good news, though, is everybody has a limit on how much internet they can consume downstream, but going up, there are no limits. So we won't trip anybody's internet limits or anything like that. All right, last call for questions, guys. We got to wrap it up. It's been a couple hours, so I feel like I gave you a good value for not being here last week. You got what you paid for, right? So last call for questions, and then we're going to move it on down the road here. I'm excited to watch the debate. I don't know who's going to show up for what. They can't have Sleepy Joe show up. That can't happen. So they're going to have to do, whatever they did for him at the State of the Union. I'm not going to go out and say it was cocaine and amphetamines, but they're going to have to give him his boost, right? He's going to have to drink his boost before he goes on stage. So that's the first thing. The second thing is part of Biden's debate prep is literally standing up, getting him to stand for 2 hours, 90 minutes, or however long it is. Again, we've all had relatives, maybe some of you listening right now have issues that you maybe can't stand up that long, or you can't walk long distances, or your health is just deteriorated, and you don't want to get down on someone for their health being deteriorated. That doesn't mean they can't be a president. If they were in a wheelchair, you could still be a good president, right? But it's not just the age and the physical deterioration that everyone's worried about. It's the mental deterioration. So I think what's most important, I think they really thought that they were putting the screws to Trump when they said, we're going to turn off your microphone so you can't interrupt Joe and get him off track, right? He'll have his prepared lines that he can read and get him off track. But that also means that Joe Biden is going to have to talk in 90-second lengths, 1.5 minutes of continuous talking where he makes sense, doesn't slur, doesn't mumble, doesn't misspeak, and is able to string cohesive thoughts together. Let's assume that you believe the worst case scenario, that Joe Biden has advanced dementia and is suffering from mental deterioration. Even patients with advanced dementia have moments of clarity, right? They have moments at which they can perform, kind of like the State of the Union. And there's also times where they literally can't perform, no matter what. They're walking away, they're walking the wrong direction, they're standing there and appearing to poop their pants. Anybody who's ever worked in a daycare will tell you that crouch and that determined look on your face. Yeah, that's a little kid pooping his pants right there. Watch out, that kid's pooping. Uh, you know, so when you say do the Biden, the dance craze taking the nation, where you stand like you're pooping your pants and you look around like you're confused. Yeah, if he does something like that on the stage, then the next question, people are saying, I'm worried that Donald Trump's going to be mean to him. He's going to be so mean. He's going to be cruel to Joe Biden. So that's the other side of this coin. I remember Tom Brokaw during an evening news. He was like wrapping up a segment. He's like, and Ronald Reagan, as you know, had dementia in his later years. And doctors are informing us that President Ronald Reagan can no longer tell the difference between a tree and a piece of paper. Coming up next, it was like, why would you revel in that? What kind of a sick human being takes pleasure in the fact that someone is so confused they can't tell the difference between a tree and a piece of paper? Yes, they both come from a tree. You can see how the association is there, but it's just not. So one thing that does scare me a little bit is that Donald Trump might get in there and Joe Biden is going to slip. And when he does slip, if Trump makes the debate about him slipping, I think that would be a mistake. I think, and this is me, I'm not a politician, I'm not a political advisor, Donald Trump has enough things to talk about and a record that he can run on that he could have a really unifying and inspirational debate. The way things are right now, guys, this is not how it needs to be. In other words, we're not debating with Joe Biden whether inflation is up or down, whether Bidenomics is good or bad. Those things, folks, the way things are right now, you know it's not right. You know it doesn't feel right. You know it doesn't look right. You watch your news reports and you see what happened to me and you know that's not right. So what we can do is we can make things right again. We can put us back on that path where there is rule of law, where the law is not used to punish people. The law is used to enforce safety, where people who, beat up police officers or cross the border illegally, they actually get arrested and they actually get prosecuted and they actually get sent to jail. Because that's how the system is supposed to work. That's the deterrent. Without that deterrent, anybody does anything they want, like those Palestinian protesters who smashed all the windows and took over that building at Harvard. Alvin Bragg is not going to prosecute any of them. He announced that the other day. So Alvin Bragg won't prosecute them, but he will prosecute Donald Trump for a records crime that is arguably garbage. So he doesn't have to jump on Joe Biden if Joe Biden screws up. Let Joe Biden screw up and just let everybody see it. Don't make fun of him, because nobody likes the guy that picks on the dementia patient. Like if you're working in an old folks home and poor Billy over here can't tell the difference between a tree and a piece of paper, and you bring him a piece of paper like, Billy, I brought you a tree. Ha ha ha! What a dumbass. Who laughs at that? I mean, it's not funny. It's sad. It's cruel. It's like picking on a baby that can't defend itself, right? So you don't want to be the guy that's picking on the baby that can't defend himself. But yet he's also running for president of the United States. So it's completely fair game in the closing statement. And this is another mistake I think they made. I have no idea why the Biden administration thought it was so important that Biden is stage right in this debate. They gave up. The debate, CNN said, you can either pick your position on stage or you can choose who goes last in closing statements. Which would you like? And they picked stage right. Donald Trump said, I'll go last. So at the end of the debate, in the closing statements, after Joe Biden has done his close, given his prepared speech, which will probably be really good because he's practiced it for a week, probably has it completely internalized, written on his back of his eyeballs. Once Biden is done, that's when Trump can say, I have a path, I have a purpose, I have things that I want to do, things that are going to be good for everybody, not just Republicans, not just Democrats, not just rich people, not just poor people, but for everybody. And I do not take pleasure in pointing this out. But obviously this gentleman doesn't have the mental capacity that we want to have in someone who is the president of the United States. And I get it, we're both old guys up here. I am going to be the last one making fun of this guy for being old. But you have to be able to do the job. And I think there is a reasonable doubt as to whether or not Joe Biden will be able to do this job for 4 more years. So you have my word. If I ever got to a point where I couldn't do the job, I would step down. Because the American people deserve somebody that can get the job done. And if I'm elected president, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Starting from the moment my hand leaves that Bible, I am going to get the job done. Because I'm on the clock, guys. I have 4 years and I'm gone. And you never have to hear from me again after that. Like presidents long before me, I will just fade off into the distance. But I have 4 years to make things right for you, to fix what's wrong with our country. And if you too think that there are things that need to be fixed, you may not agree with all the things I do or that I want to do, but I'm sure that most of you agree with some of them. And if you can agree with some of what I want to do, I'm happy to bring you along and bring you in and work together as a team to achieve those goals. Thank you for your time. God bless America. There you go. There's your closing statement. Let the audience see Joe Biden fall apart. Let the audience see that he is incapable. Don't point it out in the debate. Point it out at the close when Joe Biden can't respond. Because that was a tactical mistake on their part, I think. All right, let's check out the last questions here, and then we're going to roll on out. All righty. This show is our morning internet, better than TV. Entertainment, he meant. Morning entertainment. My late husband had dementia with Parkinson's. It tears me up every time I see him walk or talk. I'm sorry, Elizabeth. That's just got to be impossibly hard. And no, I don't think Trump is a mean person. A lot of people are like, he's vindictive, he's mean. And you know what? It's a freaking miracle that he's not. Because I have to tell you, I don't think I'm that good. I think, I try to be good, guys. I have to try, right? I mean, like all of human beings, I've got nuggets inside of me that if they get fed, But after what Alvin Bragg did to him and what Fani, because you can't say Fanny, Fani Willis did to him, and all these other people are trying to do to him and raiding Melania's underwear drawer in Mar-a-Lago looking for secret documents among her panties. When you do that stuff to me and my family, and you're just looking for an excuse to pick on Barron, maybe Barron launched a cryptocurrency, Trump coin. Oh, if he did that, he's totally on public domain now. All you want to do is destroy my family and destroy me. Well, guess what? F-A-F-O. That's what it is. Yeah, F-A-F-O. I had to say it in my head because I didn't want to say it out loud. F-A-F-O. And yeah, you better believe I'm coming for you. That would be me. So it's like, no. That's why I can't run for president. So with everything he's gone through, the fact that he is not just a bitter, vitriolic person at this point is amazing to me. So anyway, I don't think he's a mean person. He says success will be the only retribution he needs is success. And people are reading that to say, well, he's saying he's not going to go after his political opponents of the way that they went after him. His going to be success. No, what he's saying is, I'm going to freaking cut the size of government in half and fire everybody that came after me in the intelligence community. They're all gone. Their security clearances, that's their job prospects afterward. They're all gone. They don't get to keep any of it. Why would I spend government money giving you a security clearance? You don't need it. You're retired. Success. We cut spending. That's what I said I was going to do. Success. We cut the deficit. That's what I said I was going to do. Success. Our economy is doing better because that's what I said I was going to do. He's got some crazy ideas, guys. One of the ideas he had was to impose tariffs on everything coming from China. Like everything. Every plastic piece of crap, every cereal box, everything that comes from China would get a tariff. 100% tariff. Then he would take the tariff money and use that in place of the federal income tax. So he would get rid of the federal income tax and replace it with tariff money. I don't think that would ever happen. There's a lot of logistic reasons, starting with the fact that the income tax is a progressive tax. Poor people don't pay it. In fact, poor people get paid. If all of a sudden you're putting 100% tariff on everything that poor people buy, they're essentially paying the income tax now, which is fair. Everybody should be paying the income tax, but that's not how it's been for so long. I don't know that you can make that dramatic of a change like that. The not taxing tips is brilliant for servers and people. He is literally breaking up the Democrat coalition, chink, 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 piece by piece. It's brilliant the way he's doing it. The Dems think he's a mean person, but he's not. He points out the crap they don't want us to have pointed out. I think he would back up or just carry on as if Biden were silent. You're right. Biden's family should be protecting and caring for him, but when has it ever been that's the thing. If you're a family that is trying to make a buck off serving others, why would you expect anyone in that family to serve members of the family without the same motivation? Trump's closing. What if CNN just cuts Trump off because they ran out of time? Well, that would be hilarious. So, yeah, I could see a lot of different ways that could end But yeah, they pretty much, that would be ballsy. That would be real ballsy. But they're telling him you have 90 seconds to close or something like that, and they give him 90 seconds. They can't cut him off 60 seconds in and go, we're going to break. They've got to give him the time. Didn't Biden promise he would step down? I don't remember. I don't honestly remember, Ron, if he did. But not that would make a difference, right? Because even if Biden promised it, it's not Biden that's keeping him in this race. It's his family around him. Biden's family and his administration should be prosecuted for elder abuse. Oh wait, that promise was when he was vice president to Obama. Doesn't stand with him being president. Silly me. Ron's being sarcastic. There you go. That's right, Aaron. You had the acronym right. Anyone who doesn't know what that means, you have to Google it. I can't say it. All right, guys. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate you being a part of the show. It means a lot to me. Thank you for being patient with me while I took a vacation with my family. I appreciated the time away to recharge. By day 3 of vacation, I was already thinking about things I could do at work. So it's how it goes. But yeah, we'll keep working on building innovative new products for you. We'll work on our data backup stuff. Probably nothing that's going to happen super fast. We're still in concept stage right now of how we want it to work. Which is why we need to figure out who it's going to be for, because before we decide how it's going to work, we need to know who it's going to be for. So I appreciate your feedback on the pricing there as well. Look forward to seeing you all in the service centers. Slow season is almost over, guys. Next week will probably be the last of the slow weeks, and then we start trending back up again. So if you have those maintenance checkup certificates and you haven't been in yet, now's a great time to bring them in because your turnaround times are fantastic, the service levels are great, and the guys appreciate the work right now. And then starting next week, people are going to start gearing up for back to school. And then by August, it's going to be full force again. So fun times at Schrock, as always. Maybe we'll start hiring some people then. All right, guys. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you all next week.